Although the calculations for the 9 palaces were complex, they were mainly a test of one's overall understanding of formations. The calculations were much less complex than what Wang Chong was attempting, and they also happened to be the formation elder's field of expertise. The rest gate was quiet as the calculations went on. The demonic emperor old man said nothing, merely walked up to the side of the pair and silently stood guard for them. Finally, an hour later, with one final rumble, Wang Chong completed the last fragmentary formation gate in his mind, putting the finishing touch on that immense and constantly turning formation projection. This formation had more than 10,000 formation gates, and its complexity was difficult to imagine. But this formation was missing one last part: the 9 palaces. Buzz. Wang Chong opened his eyes and immediately saw a familiar and excited face. "Kid, did you really succeed?" the formation elder asked, his eyes brimming with excitement. Wang Chong softly grunted and gave a firm nod. This simple movement sent shock rippling through the eyes of the formation elder, and his face was covered in disbelief. "Kid, let me ask you, starting from our current position, how many formation gates is the view gate from us?" the formation elder suddenly asked. "And in 1 hour, how many pain gates and how many alarm gates will it encounter? And what about in 4 hours? Though his expression had calmed down, he was internally extremely nervous. The origin immortal formation was changing at every moment. Finding the number of pain gates and alarm gates and the shifts over the next 4 hours would require several million calculations. Not even the formation elder was confident in calculating this. "The closest view gate to us is 107 gates away," Wang Chong almost immediately replied, his expression stern. "In 1 hour, it will encounter 213 pain gates and 361 alarm gates. 4 hours later, it will be 1,876 gates away, and it will have encountered 1,245 pain gates and 3,742 alarm gates, as well as 4,826 stop gates and 257 rest gates." The formation elder was almost frightened out of his wits by this reply. "And the life gate? How many shifts will we have to experience before we can go from the rest gate to the life gate?" the formation elder asked. "From our current position, we will need to go through at least 14,832 formation gates before we can reach the life gate. But there is only one life gate, and its position is constantly moving. Only when the life gate is at the outermost ring can it actually be considered the life gate. Moreover, as the life gate moves from the outer rings to the inner rings, its properties will also change, turning into the pain gate, rest, stop gate, alarm gate, and such. If those people want to, as soon as we reach the life gate, they can shift the formation and have the life gate move away, ending any hopes we have of escaping. Thus, it is impossible for us to leave," Wang Chong sternly said. The formation elder stared in shock at Wang Chong, unable to manage even half a word. He had randomly chosen these questions, with each answer requiring hundreds of thousands of calculations. And for the life gate's position, not even he knew the correct answer. Of the tens of thousands of formation gates, finding the only life gate and how it shifted would require millions of calculations. Even in the many hours that had elapsed before he joined up with Wang Chong and the demonic emperor old man, he had failed to complete this calculation. But Wang Chong had needed only a few moments to find the life gate. This was simply too astounding. The formation elder didn't know if the answer was right, but he was sure that the calculation ability of Wang Chong had reached a terrifying and wondrous level. This child's talent was simply unbelievable. In truth, it's not complicated at all. As if knowing what the formation elder was thinking, Wang Chong smiled and extended a finger toward the ground, where he began to draw out concentric circles. In the blink of an eye, a simple diagram of the 9-layered origin immortal formation appeared on the ground. As long as you have a projection of the 9-layered origin immortal formation in your mind, you just need to move around the formation. There's no need for so many complex calculations. Ha! Upon seeing this diagram of the origin immortal formation, the formation elder deeply sighed, a complicated look in his eyes. 1,000,000 calculations truly was complicated, but even more complicated was creating a model of the origin immortal formation in one's mind. The latter was far more difficult, and if he had been capable of such a thing, he might have already broken out of the formation and been standing outside. Only now do I believe that there are some people who are just naturally talented in learning formations. The formation elder emotionally sighed. The words, "Alas, you have ambitions elsewhere," had just reached his lips when he shot a glance at the nearby demonic emperor old man and swallowed them back down. "It's about time, kid. I will now give you the shifts in the 9 palaces that I have calculated." As the formation elder spoke, he extended a finger. Milky white energy shot out from its tip, and a diagram of the 9 palaces soon appeared next to Wang Chong's simple diagram of the origin immortal formation. There were 9 layers in all, a perfect match for Wang Chong's origin immortal formation. With the 9 palaces and 8 gates brought together, one had the complete origin immortal formation. The 9 palaces can shift, as can the 8 gates. Only the middle palace's position is unchangeable, and this is the core of the formation. That these people are able to control the formation and alter its rules must be because they are borrowing the power of the core. If you destroy that place, you will naturally destroy the entire formation, the formation elder said sternly, drawing back his finger. "I understand." Wang Chong nodded. After looking at the 9 palaces diagram the formation elder had drawn out, he closed his eyes. The 9 palaces that the formation elder had calculated appeared in his mind, and as the 9 layers of the 9 palaces constantly shifted, they began to fuse with the projection of the origin immortal formation in Wang Chong's mind. The 9 palaces and the 8 gates were the essence and foundation of the entire formation, and only when they were fused together did one have the real origin immortal formation. But this required many calculations that needed some time to perform. The formation elder and demonic emperor old man looked at Wang Chong and nodded. They stood guard at his side, waiting until the moment of completion. At this moment, in the center of the formation, 3 figures proudly stood, observing the entire formation. When one was halfway up a mountain, one could not see its true face, and within this formation, it was nigh impossible to see the true appearance of the formation. But these 3 people were able to see the entire structure of the formation and how it shifted. All the martial artists trapped within were under their observation. From this position, one could see all 9 layers of the formation, the structure as complicated as a beehive. "Are they ready?" The leader standing at the very front had their hands behind their back and a cold killing intent in their eyes. "Milord, everything is prepared," the 2 subordinates respectfully replied. "Very good." The leader's eyes were disdainful, their face cold and emotionless. "Greed has its price, and now is the time that these people pay it. Prepare to activate the highest level, the Shadow Heaven Net. Once all the energy of the world stored beneath the formation is unleashed, every part of the formation will receive a major boost in power. Whether it's Song Yuani, Luo Qin, or that demonic emperor, they will be facing the energy of the formation built up over hundreds of years. I will have all of them die here. Yes." The 2 subordinates lowered their heads, awe and respect in their eyes. The Shadow Heaven Net was the strongest power available in the formation. Once it was activated, the life gate would be shut, turning the origin immortal formation into a prison. All the martial artists in the formation would be wiped out, never to appear in the outside world again. This energy was used only when supreme martial artists that were difficult to overcome appeared in the formation. It harnessed the power of the diagram of the universe, the energy absorbed from the world, and the energy absorbed from the martial artists to massively boost the strength of the formation. At that moment, the martial artists in the formation would no longer be facing the attacks of the formation, but the world itself. Not even the strongest martial artist could possibly contend against the world. In addition, the leader's sleeve trembled as a hand emerged. Perched on the back of their hand was a strange beetle. This beetle was the size of a child's fist and entirely golden, as if it had been plated in metal. Only on its back could one find several large black spots. Externally, it appeared somewhat like a 7-spotted ladybug, but it also seemed like something entirely different. The golden insect was perched, motionless, on the back of the leader's hand like it was sleeping. "Prepare to release the golden armor stellar-piercing beetles." The leader's eyes were cold, emotionless, and frightening as they mentioned this golden armor stellar-piercing beetle. Meanwhile, The two subordinates had begun to shiver in visible fear when they spotted that large golden beetle. Yes, yes, my lord. Panic and terror appeared in their eyes as they looked at this golden armor stellar-piercing beetle, as if this was a being that came from their worst nightmares. The leader faintly smiled, their eyes looking straight ahead as their left hand produced a ball of energy and lightly placed it in front of the golden armor stellar-piercing beetle's mouth. Suddenly, this thick and concentrated energy vanished. That motionless beetle, after absorbing this stellar energy, began to tremble all over as if awakening. The wings on its back opened up, and it took off from the leader's hand and flew with incredible speed into the formation. Tiki! Its soft cry filled their ears, but the golden beetle had long ago vanished. Buzz! After some time, Wang Chong opened his eyes, having completed the fusion of the 9 palaces with the 8 gates. Success? The formation elder asked Wang Chong. Wang Chong nodded, prompting the formation elder's eyes to brighten and a look of relief to appear on his face. Not bad. Now that you've calculated out the entirety of the origin immortal formation, you have a full grasp of how the formation operates, so there will be very little that can harm you. However, you must remember that the model that you have created inevitably has some differences from the actual origin immortal formation, so you can't be careless. In addition, with those mysterious people controlling everything from the shadows, they could adjust the rules of the formation at any time. You need to be on your toes and react according to the situation. Understood. Wang Chong nodded. The formation he and the formation elder had worked together to construct could predict 97% of the shifts, but for the remaining 3%, he would have to depend on himself. There's still 1 more hour until the formation activates again. You have to get into the core as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you'll end up going back and forth on the outer rings of the formation with no hope of breaking the formation. Senior, be at ease. 1 hour is more than enough. I've already found the shortest route to the core of the formation. It'll take me just 20 minutes to reach the core. The demonic emperor old man walked over and said, Chong-er, I won't be going with you this time. Your master has little understanding of the art of formations. Not only might I not be of any assistance to you, I might even serve as a distraction. A normal person couldn't help but be worried for Wang Chong, but the demonic emperor old man was well aware of just how different his disciple was. He had experienced dangers that even those of the martial arts world would find difficult to imagine. In addition, this origin immortal formation could not be underestimated. It was shifting so constantly that lagging behind by 1 second might result in a group being separated into different parts of the formation. This would only distract Wang Chong and completely ruin the plan. This was the reason the demonic emperor old man had chosen not to go with Wang Chong. However, he did walk to Wang Chong's side and place a palm on Wang Chong's shoulder. An immense energy poured into Wang Chong's body, rushing into and storing itself within his dantian. Wang Chong was taken by surprise, and then he understood what was going on. This energy is equivalent to a full-strength attack from me. Could be of help to you at a crucial moment. But remember, for this operation, don't stick around and fight with others. You only need to destroy the formation, the demonic emperor old man said, a hint of concern in his voice. Master, be at ease. I know what to do. Wang Chong respectfully bowed. With everything ready, Wang Chong took in a deep breath and quickly plunged into the formation. Buzz! The scene before him instantly shifted as Wang Chong left the rest gate and ventured into an unfamiliar space. But in a flash of light, Wang Chong saw that he was standing across from the demonic emperor old man and the formation elder, who were looking at him in consternation. His surroundings appeared to be identical to the rest gate he had just left. The view gate! Wang Chong faintly smiled as he looked at the master and formation elder, standing on the other side. Of the 8 gates, the view gate was simultaneously the most and least dangerous. As long as one could see through its illusions, it posed little threat. This was why it formed a part of the route Wang Chong had chosen. Wang Chong closed his eyes, spreading out his psychic energy, and swiftly made his way to the next formation gate. In the second formation gate, rows of large stone pillars floated several thousand meters in the air. The stone pillars trembled and then hurtled toward Wang Chong down below. But before these stone pillars could land, Wang Chong had confidently left for the next formation gate. His expression was calm, his steps relaxed and unpanicked, and more importantly, each one of his steps appeared to have gone through hundreds of calculations. Boom boom boom. The stone pillars sent dust pluming into the sky, but Wang Chong was long gone. To go from the rest gate to the heart of the formation required passing through countless formations gates, and Wang Chong had chosen those that posed the smallest threat. But in order to reach the core as quickly as possible and reduce the possibility of being cast out of a formation gate by that hidden faction, Wang Chong would occasionally choose to venture through more dangerous formation gates. Yet though they were dangerous, as long as he used the right method, he could still leave the formation gates before the attacks could arrive, or pass through while paying the smallest price. Buzz. But as Wang Chong stepped into the next formation gate, he encountered a somewhat different situation. His nose was immediately assailed by the pungent scent of blood. As Wang Chong looked around, he saw that the ground was covered in the fallen bodies of numerous martial artists. Some of them had been crushed by stone pillars, others pincushioned by arrows, while others were blackened and shriveled from poison. There were also some who had died from attacking each other. However, all of them, without exception, had fear etched into their twisted faces at the moment of death. Wang Chong's heart jolted at this sight. It was obvious that these people had died at the hands of the formation controlled by that hidden faction. As he pressed on, he encountered more and more corpses. The formation is hastening its harvest. Wang Chong found the sight of these corpses rather unbearable. These were all skilled experts of the martial arts world, but alas, they had all died in this place. And Wang Chong could sense that the hidden faction within this origin immortal formation was intensifying its killing intent toward these martial artists. If I don't think of a way to stop them, it won't be long before everyone is killed. Wang Chong picked up his pace. Around him, the formation rumbled and groaned as various parts of it rushed past and into the distance. Wang Chong's mind was constantly calculating, that virtual origin immortal formation overlaying itself atop the origin immortal formation before him. When the two completely coincided, Wang Chong rushed into the next formation gate. "Milord, that kid is moving again." As Wang Chong was moving about, deep within the formation, three observant figures had almost instantly noticed Wang Chong's actions. A split second later, they turned their attention to the distant demonic emperor old man and formation elder. "Milord, they left a group behind. What do we do now?" one of the figures said. Wang Chong's group had been moving together at first, making them easier to deal with. But now they had split up, immediately leaving this trio somewhat at a loss. "Concentrate our power on the kid. Throw him into the pain gate or death gate. As for the demonic emperor old man and that formation elder, keep a close eye on them and prepare to strike at any time. Today, no one will be allowed to escape," the leader said. "Yes, milord." The subordinates immediately bowed and withdrew. Rumble. As Wang Chong was putting all his power into modeling the formation suddenly rumbled and the surrounding stellar energy was thrown into disarray. "Have I already been noticed?" Wang Chong stopped and suddenly turned in the direction of the formation's center. Although he couldn't see how the entire formation was shifting, Wang Chong could sense that its movements had begun to pick up speed. "But this isn't enough to stop me." Wang Chong smiled. The path he had chosen to get to the center of the formation was the simplest and most direct. It was basically impossible to hide his movements from the people controlling the formation. But Wang Chong had also predicted that they would try to counter him. Wang Chong accelerated and pressed forward. "Hey! This kid is moving even faster. He's definitely noticed something." Milord said that this group has someone who understands formations and can derive the rules of the formation. It seems like this kid also knows a little. The formation left by the immortal lord is not that easy to see through. Not even formation grandmasters can accomplish this, much less a kid like this. Does he really think he can break the formation just by moving faster? I'm already impatient to see him thrown into the death gate and crushed to death. In the center of the formation, two figures were observing Wang Chong. With a push of the hand, they hastened the shifting of the part of the formation around Wang Chong. A moment later, The various alarm gates, pain gates, and death gates began to gather around him, instantly plunging him into danger. No matter which direction he went, he would enter one of these dangerous gates. Even if Wang Chong entered the least dangerous alarm gate, these people had ways to make Wang Chong go through dangerous gate after gate so that he would come under the ceaseless assault of the formation. Even a peak great general would eventually be drained of all their stellar energy under such an attack and ultimately die. But a moment later, the two of them were left stunned. Wang Chong gave a knowing smile and abruptly stopped. Wang Chong had been advancing non-stop since leaving the rest gate, approaching the center of the formation in a roundabout manner. But now he had come to a complete halt. The two of them could even see him raising his head up at them and grinning. What's going on here? The two stared at each other, a strange mood in the air. Already starting to scheme against me? Wang Chong looked up at a certain spot in the air and smirked. Practice led to true understanding. Although he hadn't been learning formations for very long, after creating the model of the formation and constantly verifying and correcting it as he ventured farther into the formation, his understanding was rising at an astonishing rate. Just now, Wang Chong had clearly sensed a vast difference in the formation gates around him compared to what he had calculated. His intuition told him that he was now surrounded by many dangers and traps. In this situation, any path he chose would lead to death. In the worst case, he would end up in the death gate. Alas, while these people were smart, they had forgotten something. The formation gates were changing at every moment, and it was impossible for them to remain at a single position for long. No matter how many dangerous formation gates were around him right now, at the end, all of these gates would move away. Wang Chong was confident and assured, seemingly able to see through all secrets. 3, 2, 1. Now! Wang Chong lunged toward the northwest. As he stepped into the northwest formation gate, he took a flying leap and rapidly moved forward. The view gate. The two hidden figures in the center of the formation instantly grimaced. This was the only path of survival in the formation gates around Wang Chong, and it would whisk Wang Chong away from this trap-laden area. The two found it difficult to maintain their composure. Any martial artist who had fallen into this formation was like an ant before them, something to be played around with and then crushed. But Wang Chong seemed to them like a crafty and slippery mud fish, able to slide out of their hands and see through their tricks and intentions. In the end, they were the ones being played with. But the more this was the case, the more the pair could not tolerate Wang Chong. He seems to be extremely skilled in calculation. This sort of move won't be able to stop him. Since that's the case, let's throw into chaos all the formation gates around him. Let's see him calculate his way out of that. Let's also shift around the 9 palaces again. This will maximize the difficulty of his calculation. I don't believe that we can't stop him. The two once more activated the formation, altering the movement of the formation around Wang Chong. Boom! One dangerous formation gate after another appeared around Wang Chong as the formation began to move faster and faster. To the southwest, 3 seconds. Southeast, 2 seconds. Qian Palace, 1 second. Ken Palace, 3 seconds. Wang Chong rushed forward, his sleeves flapping in the air. His left hand formed gestures while his mind rapidly calculated. As he plunged forward, he would dodge to the left and right, constantly changing his position. There were even times when he would abruptly step back and enter a formation gate behind him. In this entire process, his movements seemed to be utterly unpredictable and lacking any rhyme or reason. In the center of the formation, the faces of those two figures grew increasingly unsightly. Wang Chong moved forward or backward, left or right, seemingly at random, but the view was completely different through the eyes of these formation operators. As these two shifted the formation around, Wang Chong was constantly surrounded by soul-shaking dangers. But each time, Wang Chong was able to barely escape this danger by the skin of his teeth. It felt like he was walking on a steel wire, the slightest error casting him into the abyss. Around 10 minutes later, thump, Wang Chong stepped into another part of the formation. Looking in the direction of the formation center, Wang Chong smiled. Meanwhile, those two figures in the center nastily grimaced. Their breathing was ragged, and they had clearly consumed a significant amount of energy. Shifting the formation and altering its rules also required stellar energy. In this clash with Wang Chong, they had consumed half their energy, but in the end, they had still failed. This was something the two of them had never imagined. How could this have happened? The two were furious and dismayed, and they were also unwilling. This was their territory. It was impossible for them to lose. I don't believe that we can't deal with him. As the two were prepared to move around the formation again, a dignified and icy voice resounded. Enough! Ignore that kid. Immediately activate the formation and get rid of these greedy martial artists. Yes, my lord. The two trembled and hurriedly bowed. What's going on? At almost the same moment, within the Origin Immortal formation, Wang Chong stopped. All was quiet around him, the attacks that he had predicted abruptly disappearing. But this was of no comfort to Wang Chong. On the contrary, he deeply frowned, sensing an immense danger in this abnormal calm. Rumble. As Wang Chong was thinking, he heard an unprecedented boom come from the core of the formation that made the ground tremble. What's going on here? This abrupt boom immediately attracted the attention of all the other martial artists in the formation. It was as if the earth was tearing itself apart. Everyone couldn't help but be deeply concerned over such a thing. Alliance Lord, what do we do now? Elsewhere in the formation, Xikong Yuanjia and the others turned to Song Yuani. Unlike others, these righteous alliance elders had also sensed thick ripples of worldly origin energy along with this explosion. These waves of origin energy left even these illustrious elders of the martial arts world feeling tiny and insignificant. Each of them felt frightened and uneasy. Song Yuani said nothing. His back as straight as ever and his face just as cold and aloof. It was like nothing in the world was capable of shaking him. But deep within his eyes was a pensive and contemplative expression. The Origin Immortal Mountain should have contained the number one art of the world. But it was clear from the current situation that this had been a trap. The true location of the Origin Immortal Mountain was still a distant dream. Now, the only reason that kept him here was hunting down demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu. Advance! Song Yuani suddenly said, his voice calm and his expression grim and determined. It's impossible to retreat now. The only way out is to enter the core of the formation and destroy it. There was no way to recall a loosed arrow. Since they had entered the formation, there was no going back. Even someone like Song Yuani, who did not understand formations, knew that entering the core of the formation was the most direct and violent method for undoing a formation. Although the Origin Immortal formation was dangerous, Song Yuani, who had the greatest defensive art in the world, would find the attacks much easier to deal with. Let's go, Song Yuani emotionlessly said as he led the way. A moment later, a rumbling came from behind him. Crack. The earth cracked open, and then suddenly, buzz. The formation gate behind Song Yuani suddenly became 4 gates, immediately splitting up all the Righteous Alliance members. Alliance Lord, save me. A Righteous Alliance expert's eyes widened as he reached out his hands in fear toward Song Yuani. His expression was that of a drowning man reaching for a rope. But a moment later, in a flash of light, the formation gate shifted, whisking away the Righteous Alliance expert and 10 some disciples like some invisible monster. In a few seconds, they had completely vanished. Not good. Everyone, be careful. Ah, Alliance Lord. Cries of alarm rang out as one Righteous Alliance expert after another vanished. Who? Song Yuani's eternal spring stellar energy gathered into tentacles that flew through the air, arriving just in time to pull back 4 or 5 Righteous Alliance experts before the area behind him turned into a gray void. Other than the few Righteous Alliance elders and experts at Song Yuani's side, all the others had been instantly shuffled away by the formation, even Elder Xikong Yuanjia. Damn it! Song Yuani finally lost his composure, his face twisting into a nasty scowl. Ah! At almost the same time, in a distant area, the 5 Ancestor Alliances group was facing a similar problem. In the blink of an eye, the several hundred 5 Ancestor Alliance experts had been split up across various formation gates. Screams were ringing endlessly through the air. Bastard! With a furious roar, Black Yin ancestor Luo Qin grimaced and punched several times at his surroundings. Churning evil energy swept forward, but after traveling several dozen feet, it seemed to strike some invisible barrier that instantly dispelled it. A few moments after entering the formation, the Black Yin ancestor had been separated from myriad ghost ancestor Pale Wanchong, and now the majority of his disciples had been shuffled away. This left Luo Qin simply fuming. But before the Black Yin ancestor could vent his rage, the earth boomed and the space beneath him began to shudder and shift. Vast energy suddenly swept the Black Yin ancestor off his feet and tossed him out of the formation gate. Ancestor! Ancestor! The remaining 5 Ancestor Alliance disciples at the Black Yin ancestor's side immediately paled in fright. They shot into the air to try to bring the Black Yin ancestor back to the ground. But before they could do anything, the Black Yin ancestor was cast into another space in a flash of light, vanishing from sight. Swish! As the ashen-faced Black Yin ancestor was about to land, his black robe flapping around him, he heard the air shriek and countless arrows shoot toward him. Alarm gate! This was not the first time the Black Yin ancestor had run into these attacks, and this level was far from enough to harm him. The Black Yin ancestor turned his hand over, sending out a vast stream of stellar energy that immediately turned into a barrier of what seemed like black glass. But as the first arrow battered against the barrier, the Black Yin ancestor grimaced. This wasn't his first time receiving this kind of attack, but the power of the attack was clearly different. Each of these arrows now delivered an extremely heavy force, seeming less like arrows and more like hammers. The black wall of stellar energy the Black Yin ancestor had laid down began to tremble. 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 3 arrows. As more and more arrows slammed down, the black barrier began to dim, and then it simply exploded. Not good. The Black Yin ancestor punched forward, obliterating the rain of arrows. By this point, the Black Yin ancestor's face had twisted into a nasty scowl, and his eyes were extremely grave. The formation had changed. All the attacks had become stronger, more dangerous and harmful. All those caught inside the formation were in danger. Aru! The Black Yin ancestor suddenly gave a bestial howl, and his dantian erupted with evil energy. In a flash, the Black Yin ancestor was shooting like a cannonball toward the center of the formation. Just who is it who dares to oppose this ancestor? His voice echoed through the space, but the man himself was long gone. The Black Yin ancestor was not some master of formations, but a moment ago, even he had sensed that someone was messing around with the formation, throwing into disarray all of its rules of operation. Everything that was happening in front of him could not be written off as mere happenstance. Ah! One dying scream after another rang out through the air. As Wang Chong heard these miserable screams from up ahead, he grimaced. The entire formation had begun to operate in an entirely different manner, each formation gate turning into 4. This meant that the more than 10,000 formation gates had become more than 40,000, and they were starting to shift around more quickly and with more frequency, their attacks getting fiercer. They're preparing to eliminate all the martial artists in the formation. As the winds howled around him, Wang Chong's expression turned increasingly grave. He had not been solely calculating all this time. Through the world of energy, Wang Chong could see a vast storm of worldly energy that could make any martial artist pale. It was surging out from the core of the formation and well on its way to engulfing every single formation gate. Through some mysterious method, this immense energy was swiftly hardening the formation gates and increasing the power of the various attacks within. There's no time. Wang Chong's expression was one of unprecedented solemnity. That mysterious faction had activated the final energy of the formation in order to sweep away all the martial artists within. This was much earlier than he and the formation elder had expected. It was obvious that these people were getting impatient and wanted to get rid of the martial artists as quickly as possible. There are too many martial artists gathered here. No matter what, I can't allow them to succeed. Wang Chong's eyes turned sharp. Who? As the winds tossed around his clothes, Wang Chong accelerated, his body flying toward the next formation gate. Boom! 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 As the formation rapidly shifted, the model of the origin immortal formation in Wang Chang's mind also began to move at unprecedented speeds. Wang Chang's psychic energy was rapidly consumed in this entire process. As a psychic energy practitioner, Wang Chang possessed vast reserves of psychic energy. This was why Wang Chang was able to perform far more calculations than a master of formations like the Formation Elder. Deriving the formation's movements consumed psychic energy, particularly a formation as complicated as the origin immortal formation. The faster and longer he calculated, the more psychic energy he would consume. Now that the number of calculations had so abruptly multiplied, the psychic energy was being consumed at an astonishing rate. But Wang Chang could no longer pay this any heed. Ah! A scream came from up ahead, and in a flash of light, Wang Chang entered the next formation gate. In this formation gate, several unaffiliated martial artists with blood-stained faces were strenuously fending off rains of stones and arrows. "It's over. We're doomed." Despair appeared on their faces as the arrows and stones blotted out the sky. "Hold! You're not dead yet." A thunderous roar rang out, and before they could react, the energies of Yin and Yang swept up these martial artists and tossed them through a formation gate behind him. "If the three of you work together, you can still hold out for a while and will safely reach the edge of the formation." There was one last thunderous shout, and then Wang Chang was gone. As one got closer and closer to the center of the origin immortal formation, the formation moved faster and faster, but no matter what sort of danger he encountered, Wang Chang was able to calculate that single opportunity that would allow him to narrowly escape danger, allowing him to proceed with a confident and determined pace. The formation model in Wang Chang's mind rapidly turned, the revolving of the 9 layers moving so quickly that to look upon it was almost blinding. But no matter how the formation changed, Wang Chang was always able to find that path to the center through the model in his mind. Swish! An arrow shot forward with destructive energy, but Wang Chang managed to dodge it by a hair. Kiki! Just as Wang Chang was passing through that narrow space between the pain gate and death gate to reach the open gate, he suddenly heard a chirping sound. It was like the chirping of an insect, but also different. There was a metallic buzz to it, and the sound was also much louder than any insect could make. Wang Chang only raised an eyebrow at first and continued to press forward. But a moment later, a golden streak of light was hurtling toward his face. Where did this bug come from? Wang Chang's brow furrowed. He could tell at a glance that this was a golden beetle the size of a silver coin, its wings open as it flew toward him. Out of caution, Wang Chang took 2 steps back and thrust forward a palm. A torrent of energy rushed forward and soon collided with that mysterious golden beetle. This single attack had immense weight behind it and could easily pulverize a rock. But the completely unexpected occurred. After being struck by Wang Chang's energy, that golden beetle only wobbled in the air for a few moments before flying at Wang Chang once more. Moreover, through the world of energy, Wang Chang could see that not only had the golden beetle escaped completely unscathed, the glow around its body grew even brighter, as did the ripples of energy emanating from it. It felt as if the golden beetle had absorbed a portion of the energy from Wang Chang's attack into its body. How could this be? What sort of insect is this? Wang Chang's heart thumped, his expression instantly changing. There was no insect in the world that could endure the immense weight of his attack, not even one that had been forged from metal. There was clearly something strange about this insect. Buzz! As the golden beetle shot forward in a streak of light, Wang Chang turned apprehensive, sensing an intense danger. The Formation Elder had said that this origin immortal formation was the world's #1 formation, and that it would only get more dangerous as one got closer to the core. Moreover, the formation was very likely to have some powerful hidden defenses. This golden beetle was likely to be one of the defenses around the center of the formation. These thoughts quickly flew through Wang Chang's mind. A moment later, 2 more golden beetles appeared with a shriek, their wings open as they shot like lightning bolts toward him. The 3 golden beetles, 1 in front and 2 behind, were chirping as if they had found food. With no time to think, Wang Chang fired a milky white bolt of sword chi, as sharp as could be. At this moment in time, Wang Chang had decided to use the art of god and demon obliteration. Kiki! After being struck by Wang Chong's sword chi, the leading beetle immediately flipped over in the air, bursts of gas venting from its back. Wang Chong observed that this golden beetle's energy was weakened by about a third, and it was apparent that it had suffered significant injuries. What a frightening insect! To think that it would possess such formidable defense. Wang Chong slightly paled at this sight. He had seen many things over his lives, but he had never seen an insect like this. Not only was stellar energy of no effect against it, it could actually absorb it and use it to strengthen itself. The art of god and demon obliteration's attacks were hailed as peerless in the world, and of the 10 great arts, it was second only to the origin immortal art. But even the immense offensive capabilities of the art of god and demon obliteration could not kill these golden beetles. However, the sword chi had succeeded in wounding the golden beetle, and it was probably the only method at his disposal for doing so. Pa! 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 As the 2 golden beetles in the rear shot forward, the golden beetle that had been thrown back spiraled in the air and then also corrected its course. Wang Chong immediately flicked his finger several times, sending bolts of sword chi at these 3 insects. Wang Chong's attacks were fast, accurate, and fierce, each flick of his finger carefully calculated, so that his bolts of energy would strike the golden beetles. Pop! 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 With 3 small explosions, the golden beetles were struck, and smoke poured out of their bodies. Wang Chong continued to fire bolts of sword chi, and 1 beetle, after taking 4 bolts of sword chi, was pierced through and finally died. The other 2 followed in quick succession, and the stiff carcasses of the 3 beetles were soon belly up on the ground, along with splotches of green blood. After killing the 3 golden beetles, Wang Chong immediately continued on his way. Big Bro Zhang were done for. At a certain place in this vast formation, a corrosive, poisonous mist drifted through the air. An unaffiliated martial artist stood here, his eyes filled with despair. Kiki. In front of him, golden beetles shot through the air, their bodies glowing. Not far away, several martial artists were screaming in panic as they swatted at these golden beetles. Those who had managed to get this far were all incredibly strong, all of them possessing firm and powerful stellar energy. But even the strongest stellar energy was powerless against these golden beetles. These strange insects were gnawing at their stellar energy barriers and even their bodies as if they were leaves, opening up small holes that they would use to burrow into the bodies of the martial artists. The martial artists were constantly swatting at the golden beetles with all their might, but all they managed to achieve was momentarily knocking them into the air or into the dirt. Their bodies were as dense as steel. Such heavy blows only caused them to sway a little before they shook their wings and took flight once more. For these martial artists, this was their worst possible nightmare. Never in their entire lives had they encountered something so terrifying. Even more terrifying was that 7 or 8 martial artists had already had their stellar energy barriers pierced, the golden beetles burrowing into their bodies and rustling through their skin. These martial artists screamed as they rolled on the ground, even tearing at their skin in the hopes of dragging those golden beetles out of their bodies. But even though they tore their skin and flesh into a bloody mess, they could not stop the golden beetles from burrowing deeper into their bodies. That gruesome and bloody scene, particularly the sight of the golden beetles crawling under one's skin, placed an enormous psychological pressure on all the other martial artists. Their faces were pale with fear, and they were perhaps even more shocked than those martial artists who now had golden beetles crawling through their bodies. Every one of them was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Everyone, focus. Did you forget what we all agreed? Since we came together, we leave together. Stand up. I won't let you give up, no matter what. A rough and heart-rending bellow resounded through the formation. It had come from a middle-aged martial artist with bare arms, his hair in disarray and his clothes and armor in tatters. He wildly flailed the broadsword in his hand, constantly hacking at the golden beetles. The blade of this broadsword was chipped and cracked, but this middle-aged martial artist refused to give up. His eyes were red as he charged out again and again, blocking the beetles for his comrades. The golden beetles did not fear stellar energy, even fed on it, so even the strongest attacks of this sort had a limited effect. But the attacks from ordinary sabers and swords, while appearing rather weak, actually had more effect. However, even the most optimistic person could see that the middle-aged martial artist wouldn't last for long. Once that broadsword was finally broken by the golden beetles, he would end up just like the rest of his comrades. Big bro, hurry and get out of here. Forget about us. We're done for. No matter what, you have to live. Aya, a martial artist whose body was now home to a golden beetle hollered. But he only got halfway through his words before they turned into a miserable scream. The middle-aged martial artist felt like his heart was bleeding, and his teeth were clenched so hard that it seemed like he was trying to grind them into powder. This group had come for the #1 origin immortal art, but now, not only had they failed to obtain anything, their group might end up being completely wiped out. It was all my fault. All my fault. If not for me, they would have never ended up here. The brawny middle-aged man mentally roared, his heart in excruciating suffering as those golden beetles assailed his comrades. If we're going to die, we'll die together. If we can't be brothers in this life, we'll be brothers in the next. As the middle-aged martial artist painfully closed his eyes and prepared to commit suicide, there was a flash of light as another person appeared in this part of the formation. Sensing that another person had come in, the middle-aged man came to his senses and roared, "Get out of here! It's dangerous!" Clang! He slashed his sword at 2 golden beetles coming at him from the front and 1 golden beetle that was coming up behind him. Kiki! As the middle-aged man pushed back these golden beetles, he heard chirping from very close by. 2 golden beetles had somehow gotten underneath his ribs and were about to burrow through. It's over! The middle-aged martial artist's heart went cold, his face going pale and his eyes brimming with despair. But a moment later, just when the middle-aged martial artist thought that he was dead, there was a sharp whistle. The man opened his eyes and saw that the 2 golden beetles had been sent reeling back by 2 bolts of sword chi. "Stand aside. Watch out for these golden beetles." Wang Chong came rushing over from several dozen feet away, his fingers flicking out bolts of sword chi. Plush! 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 Struck repeatedly by bolts of sword chi, the golden beetles began to explode in puffs of smoke and drop to the ground, their 6 legs facing the sky. After killing off these golden beetles, Wang Chong immediately shot off in another direction. Numerous milky white bolts of sword chi struck the golden beetles, which chirped and squeaked as, one by one, they dropped to the ground. The art of god and demon obliteration had been inherited from great Tang war god Su Xianxia, and it was currently the only supreme art that Wang Chong could use without risk of triggering his cultivation defect or worsening his injuries. Thus, even though he was still consuming stellar energy, killing these golden beetles didn't have much of an effect on his condition. In just a few short moments, Wang Chong had killed 7 or 8 of the beetles. The middle-aged martial artist was rendered speechless by this sight. Even when he poured his stellar energy into his sword and hacked with all his might at the golden beetles, he had only been able to push them back. Yet to his surprise, this newcomer was able to shoot down these golden beetles with a few bolts of sword chi. This was simply unbelievable. But Wang Chong was paying little attention to the expression on the middle-aged martial artist's face. His attention was entirely on the golden beetles. He had only encountered 3 of them, but there were many more of them here. These martial artists clearly did not have the strength to cope. With no time to think, Wang Chong grabbed one of the martial artists whose body a golden beetle had burrowed into and swept across his body with a finger, digging out a piece of flesh along with the golden beetle within it. Swish, swish, swish. 3 bolts of sword chi finished off the golden beetle before it could cause any trouble. Wang Chong continued and killed several more of the beetles in this fashion. As if he had kicked a beehive, the golden beetles turned away from their other targets and lunged at Wang Chong, the air resounding with furious chirping. "Brother, forget about us. Run!" The middle-aged martial artist paled at this sight. Their group of 20-some had failed to deal with these golden beetles, and now all of these beetles were targeting a single person. The danger was obvious. This person had come for their sake, but the middle-aged martial artist had no wish to see something happen to this person just so that they could be saved. "Brother, there is no need to worry. I'm fine." Wang Chong flicked his finger several times, sending one bolt of sword chi after another, each one striking a golden beetle. A few seconds later, all the golden beetles had been struck down before they could even get close to Wang Chong, their lifeless bodies dropping to the ground. How could this be? This time, it wasn't merely the middle-aged martial artist, but all the other unaffiliated martial artists who witnessed this inconceivable sight, and their eyes bulged open in shock. But Wang Chong had little time to worry about them. His eyes turned to those martial artists still rolling and screaming on the ground. As he examined those beetles still crawling beneath their skin, he decided to change tactics. Swish! 6 bolts of sword chi flew through the air, drilling into the bodies of those martial artists on the ground. Ah! What are you doing? Everyone was alarmed by this sight. Those golden beetles were as tough as steel and could absorb stellar energy. Just how sharp would this man's sword chi have to be to pierce through their shells? Anyone struck by this sword chi would suffer gruesome consequences. Those martial artists who could still move lunged at Wang Chong in an attempt to stop him, but they were far too weak for that. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. But a moment later, they were all left dumbstruck. Wang Chong's sword chi only pierced the skin of those martial artists on the ground, the remaining sword chi shooting off to the side toward those golden beetles crawling beneath. Each beetle was only able to take 3 blows from Wang Chong's sword chi before dying. The howls of pain suddenly stopped, and those martial artists panted in relief as they lay sprawled out on the ground, their faces caked in sweat. Hurry and leave this place. It's now very dangerous, and the formation's core has been activated, sending even stronger attacks toward this place. In 12 seconds, a stop gate will be passing through the northwest. Once you enter there, your combined strength should be able to hold out while the formation gate takes you to the edge of the formation, allowing you to escape this disaster. Wang Chong's voice resounded, and then, clap! Wang Chong pressed down his palm, sending a vast stream of stellar energy into the middle-aged martial artist, rapidly restoring his reserves. Here are a few pills to help you out. You'll have to depend on yourself for the rest. Wang Chong threw over several white pills the size of pigeon eggs and turned to leave. Time was short, and Wang Chong was confident that he would have to face even greater dangers if he wanted to reach the core and break the formation. Not only would more martial artists die, even he and his master would find it difficult to survive. Brother, wait a moment. What is brother's honored name? The middle-aged martial artist tried to stop Wang Chong, but in a flash of light, Wang Chong was gone into the next formation gate. The martial artist was left stunned and speechless. Big bro, I recognize him, said a whisper at his ear. That man was the fake young master Qingyang, Zhang Wenfu's disciple, and also the great Tang's king of foreign lands, Wang Chong. What? The king of foreign lands? That's him. The words of his sworn brother had Zhang Shangu flabbergasted. The one that Freeman Wujin told us to go and join. That's him, the unaffiliated martial artist firmly said. The group became speechless, an eerie silence reigning. Wang Chong continued on his way deeper into the core of the formation, but his steps gradually began to slow. The closer he got to the core, the more dangerous it became, and the stronger the traps. Boom, boom, boom. Stone pillars struck the ground with a thunderous momentum. This was no longer a simple physical attack. Wang Chong could sense intense ripples of energy from the stone pillars. The energy in the air was pouring endlessly into the pillars, massively boosting their offensive power. Aya! With a scream, an unaffiliated martial artist was crushed into pulp by one of the stone pillars. There were far too many martial artists coming under attack in the formation. Not even Wang Chong could worry about them all. Follow me. Wang Chong activated the great Yin-Yang heaven creation art and pulled on those martial artists caught in the formation, rescuing them from death and tossing them into nearby formation gates. Wang Chong didn't even have time to explain or treat their injuries. Every extra moment spent in these formation gates would increase the danger by that much. I'll just save who I can. They'll have to depend on themselves for the rest, Wang Chong quietly said to himself. On the way here, he had seen the corpses of far too many martial artists, and there were probably many more who were still struggling for their lives. The only thing Wang Chong could do was to get to the core as quickly as possible and destroy the formation. On the way, Wang Chong could only save as many as he possibly could. Kiki. As Wang Chong stepped into the next formation gate, avoiding a rain of arrows and stones, he heard a metallic chirping. The nearby golden beetles, as if attracted by something, threw aside their original opponents and flew at Wang Chong. Unlike the golden beetles Wang Chong had first encountered, these ones had a golden glow around them, while thick pulses of energy came from inside their bodies. And they were clearly much larger. They must have gotten this way from eating the stellar energy of martial artists, Wang Chong supposed. These golden beetles could absorb a significant amount of stellar energy from each martial artist they killed, making them much stronger. The clearest manifestation of this was the glow around their bodies. For these golden beetles to have such thick and dazzling glows, they had probably killed numerous martial artists. Pa! 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 Wang Chong fired off 3 bolts of sword chi at one of the beetles, but to his consternation, this time, his attacks only tore apart the glow around the beetle, and the beetle itself continued to charge unabated. Wang Chong's heart shivered at this sight at how much stronger these golden beetles had become. He would now probably need 5 or 6 bolts of sword chi to kill one golden beetle. Kiki! The air resounded with sharp chirping as the numerous golden beetles charged in a frenzy at Wang Chong. Even Wang Chong would find it hard to fend off this many of them. Without the slightest hesitation, Wang Chong summoned a treasure from within his body. Heavenly Mandate Battle Armor. In a flash, Wang Chong equipped a dark red suit of armor. The helmet, mask, vambraces, gauntlets, the suit of armor completely enclosed Wang Chong, leaving only a few chinks between the individual pieces. With a thought from Wang Chong, these chinks closed together as well, leaving no gap for his enemy to exploit. Thud thud thud. Collisions rained down on the armor. The golden beetles battered against Wang Chong's body, but failed to make any headway. What is that? In the center of the formation, the 3 figures who had been watching Wang Chong this entire time saw that savage dark red armor appear abruptly on Wang Chong's body. Their leader instantly raised an eyebrow and scowled. The 2 subordinates also appeared greatly alarmed. The golden beetles were not ordinary beings, but an ancient species that could break through stellar energy barriers and feed on energy. Moreover, they were also powerful enough to eat through iron and steel. Ordinary armor was simply useless against them. But the suit of armor that Wang Chong was wearing seemed to be impervious to them. My lord, such a treasure couldn't possibly exist in the martial arts world, and he's never put on that suit of armor before. He must be together with those people, one of the subordinates said. A dark look appeared on their 3 faces, and the eyes of the leader began to surge with killing intent. Any treasure consumes stellar energy. I'd like to see how long he can endure the attacks of the golden armor stellar-piercing beetle. Keep an eye on that kid and increase the strength of the attacks against him. We can't let him get close to the formation core. The leader's expression was extremely grave. Yes, the 2 subordinates assented. At this moment, Wang Chong had no idea of these events, nor did he have the time to care. The golden beetles were crashing in and being forced back, completely incapable of dealing with the Heavenly Mandate battle armor. But Wang Chong was by no means happy. The Heavenly Mandate battle armor consumed large amounts of stellar energy, and using it was no different from attacking with stellar energy. For the Wang Chong whose stellar energy was in disarray and at risk of triggering his cultivation defect at any moment, using it was an extreme risk. This was also why Wang Chong had not previously used the Heavenly Mandate battle armor. Not only that, even if the Heavenly Mandate battle armor could block the attacks of the golden beetles, it had yet another critical flaw: the time limit. The Heavenly Mandate battle armor can't be used for more than an hour, but in my current condition, it won't even last 10 minutes. No matter what, I have to reach the formation core and destroy the formation before this limit is up. His face within the Heavenly Mandate battle armor was ghastly pale. Starting from now, Wang Chong's stellar energy would be constantly drained and his meridians thrown into increasing disarray. For the first time, Wang Chong felt an intense danger. Those hidden schemers had clearly strengthened their attacks in order to kill everyone. Even his master and the formation elder were probably not safe. He had to destroy the formation. I've already reached the third layer of the formation. Once I get through this layer, I should reach the core, Wang Chong said to himself, continuing to operate the origin immortal formation model in his mind. This formation was more massive and complicated than Wang Chong had imagined, and his psychic energy was also rapidly being consumed. Moreover, the closer he got to the core, the more calculations he had to perform. The formation elder was right. The origin immortal formation truly did have too many variables, making the calculations far too complex. Probably only the original architect of the formation was capable of calculating a way to undo the formation. If he hadn't created the model of the origin immortal formation and had instead chosen to rely solely on calculation, the number of calculations needed to reach the core would have reached an astronomical number that was simply impossible to calculate. And the effort was still taxing even with the model. Rumble. As he was calculating, another rumble came from the core. Wang Chong raised his head and saw through the world of energy that yet another vast wave of energy was sweeping toward his location. These scoundrels are up to their tricks again. Wang Chong squinted, a sharp and vicious light in his eyes. He had already experienced 6 or 7 rumblings like this. With each rumble, the energy of the formation would strengthen and the attacks would become more powerful. Everyone's circumstances were only continuing to worsen and become more dangerous. I have to move faster, Wang Chong urged himself. Kiki. The golden beetles continued to attack him, metallically chirping, as Wang Chong swiftly made his way into the next formation gate. Roar. The moment Wang Chong entered the formation gate, he heard bangs and shouts. Within this formation gate, Wang Chong saw various peak imperial martial experts wearing uniforms emblazoned with the symbol of a white crane on yin and yang. They had assembled into a tight sword formation that they were using to resist the stones and arrows pouring down as well as the dark red lava gushing out of the ground. Careful. Zhou Chong, hold. Alliance Lord will definitely come and save us. Yes, we can't give up no matter what. Let's destroy this formation together. These martial artists were in an extremely poor situation. Not only did they have to fend off the attacks from the formation, but also the attacks of the golden beetles. However, these martial artists worked together extremely well, and it also seemed like they had already paid some painful price to learn the weakness of these golden beetles. The martial artists were constantly swinging their swords at the surrounding golden beetles. Even though there were 30 to 40 of these beetles, none of them were able to break through, as they were knocked away before they could get close. But the most obvious sight here was the massive black Qilin standing at the center of the sword formation. This giant Qilin's large feet were constantly stomping down, and it shattered more than half of the incoming attacks. Besides that, it had also drawn over a significant number of beetles. Through this method, the black Qilin was sacrificing itself to protect those imperial martial experts. Righteous Alliance. Elder Ouyang. Wang Chong's face froze in surprise. He had never imagined that he would encounter Ouyang Chongheng and the Righteous Alliance experts in such a central part of the origin immortal formation. Though they were seemingly able to hold on, Wang Chong could tell that they were faring very badly. Ouyang Chongheng's black Qilin was not even exerting half of its usual power, and the Righteous Alliance experts it was protecting were all pale, cold sweat rolling off their foreheads and flowing down their backs and chests, drenching their bodies and even the ground beneath their feet. It was clear that their stellar energy reserves would not be able to last for long. Moreover, if a single gap appeared, the golden beetles would immediately exploit it, with consequences too frightening to be imagined. Who goes there? It's you. It's the fake young Master Qingyang. What are you talking about? He's the demonic emperor's successor, a demon of the evil path. Thunderous roars rang out as the Righteous Alliance experts noticed Wang Chong's entry into the formation gate. In a flash, there was a clanging of swords and sabers, with a good portion of their weapons pointed at Wang Chong. The air instantly tensed. This little demon can only have appeared here harboring evil intentions. Even if we must die today, we can't let him off easily. Bastard. He wants to ambush us. Kill him. Forget it. We'll bring him down with us. The imperial martial experts of the Righteous Alliance furiously bellowed. Although Wang Chong was enclosed entirely within the bizarre and mysterious Heavenly Mandate battle armor, he had still been almost instantly recognized. Outside the formation, Wang Chong had used this armor in his battle against Righteous Alliance Lord Song Yuani and Black Yin Ancestor Luo Qin, leaving a deep impression on the onlookers. No one had expected Wang Chong to show up while they were trying to cope with the traps and dangers of this place. Everyone in the martial arts world knew of demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu's infamous reputation. No matter where Wang Chong had come from, he had already become associated with the evil path and the title of demon. If this were any other time, they wouldn't have needed to fear him. But they had consumed more than half their stellar energy and were reaching the end of their rope. How could they not be alarmed and furious? Wang Chong's expression chilled at this sight. He had been considering whether he would save these people, but if they truly dared to attack him, then he couldn't be blamed for what happened next. Stop! A furious roar came from overhead. At this crucial moment, Ouyang Changheng's Black Qilin spoke, his voice extremely harsh and severe. Anyone who dares to attack young Master Wang will be punished according to the laws of the Alliance. These words took all the Righteous Alliance experts by surprise, and even Wang Chong couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. But, Elder, he's a disciple of the demonic emperor, a Righteous Alliance expert said in concern, his momentary distraction almost allowing a golden beetle to get in. If you encounter the demonic emperor or his disciple, kill them at once, was an order from the Alliance Lord. No one had expected Ouyang Changheng to suddenly defy this order. They couldn't help but hesitate. There is no but. Everyone, stand down. Young Master Wang saved our Righteous Alliance. If not for him, we would have already been dead at the hands of the Black Yin Ancestor. We are the Righteous Alliance, not the Evil Alliance. Returning kindness with hostility is not something that we can do. I can't meddle with the orders of the Alliance Lord, but inside this formation, none of you are allowed to attack young Master Wang. Ouyang Changheng's voice was stern and tolerated no objection. Yes, although they were extremely unwilling, none of them dared to defy the elder. Wang Chong had been watching from the sidelines this entire time. He had been expecting a major battle, so Ouyang Changheng's attitude had taken him by complete surprise. Young Master Wang, my apologies. The righteous and evil paths have been opposed to each other since ancient times, and I am incapable of changing Alliance Lord's attitude. I hope that young Master can forgive us. Ouyang Changheng's voice came from the mouth of the Black Qilin. Elder is too polite, Wang Chong sternly said. Ah! At this moment, a scream could be heard from the southeast. One of the Imperial martial experts had been caught off guard, allowing one of the golden beetles to rush past his sword at his stellar energy barrier. This Imperial martial expert was already exhausted and was incapable of resisting. In the blink of an eye, the golden beetle had gnawed through his stellar energy and burrowed into his body. Ah! Save me! Save me! The Imperial martial expert collapsed to the ground and rolled around in pain. Huang Tong! Everyone paled, but before they could rush up to assist, one golden glowing beetle after another rushed into the gap created by Huang Tong's fall. Cling cling! Clang clang! Swords collided against the golden beetles, ceaselessly knocking them away. But this only added to the chaos. Without their sword formation, these martial artists were no longer capable of holding out against the golden beetles. More screams rang out as the Righteous Alliance experts fell to the ground. And when it rained, it poured. With another rumble, the sky darkened and thousands of arrows and stones began to howl down. The next wave of formation attacks had come, and these arrows and stones flew over with thunderous howls. It was clear that they were even stronger than before. Not good! Ouyang Changheng was alarmed by this sight. Bellowing furiously, he swatted at the sky with one of his large Qilin claws. Aya! A scream tore through the air as a particularly large golden beetle, surrounded by a dazzling glow, gnawed through Ouyang Changheng's stellar energy and burrowed into his shoulder. Unlike the other golden beetles, this one was surrounded by a dark red glow that made it seem like an agate. The momentary lapse in concentration caused countless arrows wrapped in destructive energy to crash into Ouyang Changheng's body. Each one of these had an immense weight, and thousands of these arrows striking his Qilin body immediately caused Ouyang Changheng to vomit blood. The black Qilin in the air began to sway, the stellar energy forming its body rapidly dimming. Elder! The Righteous Alliance experts called out in alarm. They lunged in panic toward Ouyang Changheng, all their former composure lost, even forgetting about the attacks coming from behind them. The closer one got to the center of the formation, the more powerful the attacks were. These people had only been able to survive for so long by relying on Ouyang Changheng. But not even Ouyang Changheng could endure for that long. Ah! Panicked cries rang out as more and more golden beetles converged on the Righteous Alliance experts, even the golden beetles around Wang Chong. Seeing that Ouyang Changheng and the Righteous Alliance experts were about to die to the golden beetles, Wang Chong immediately rushed forward. Boom! There was a thunderous explosion as golden red light erupted from Wang Chong's body. At the same time, Wang Chong also began to exert a massive absorption force that he used to pull away the stones and arrows and turn their might toward the outside of the formation gate. Yin-Yang shift. Wang Chong used the great Yin-Yang heaven creation art without hesitation. Kiki. The golden beetles chirped as they were suddenly pulled away from the Righteous Alliance experts and toward Wang Chong. Not even the golden beetles could resist the explosive pull coming from Wang Chong. Clang clang clang. Hundreds of golden beetles slammed against the heavenly mandate battle armor. Elder Ouyang, a favor for a favor. This is all I can help you with. After 10 seconds, retreat into the stop gate in the back. 10 minutes later, it will take you to the 7th and 8th layer. This is your only chance to retreat. If you venture any farther, your chances of survival will be slim to none. Wang Chong's voice resounded in everyone's ears. This is the last time I will help you. Before the Righteous Alliance experts could understand what Wang Chong's final words meant, Wang Chong suddenly extended his armor-covered right hand and pulled at the sky. Rumble! The entire world seemed to groan, and then a vast and pure worldly energy surged down from the sky, striking Ouyang Changheng and the Righteous Alliance experts. In the bath of worldly origin energy, the Righteous Alliance experts began to rapidly recover their energy. What? This abrupt sight stunned the leader and two subordinates hidden in the center of the formation. The disbelief on their faces was so strong that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How could this be? He can use the energy of the formation. The energy that Wang Chong had pulled on to assist Ouyang Changheng's group was none other than the worldly energy that this trio had unleashed to strengthen the attacks of the formation. Even if they had been beaten to death, they would have never believed that such a thing was possible. This kid has to die no matter what. Release all the stellar-piercing beetles. I'd like to see how he deals with that, the leader furiously bellowed. His original target was all the martial artists in the formation, but now Wang Chong had jumped to the top of the kill list. In a flash, all the golden beetles were released to deal with Wang Chong. Within the formation, after attracting the attention of all the golden beetles, Wang Chong plunged into the next formation gate. As he was leaving, Wang Chong sent out a burst of sword chi to blast down several golden beetles in the air. Upon sensing this energy, the golden beetles went mad, all of them rushing at Wang Chong. Bzzzzz. In a flash of light, Wang Chong disappeared together with the golden beetles. Behind him, for a brief moment, there was an eerie silence. Everyone looked at each other in speechlessness. Those Righteous Alliance experts who had cursed and reviled him before were now red with shame, complicated expressions on their faces. In the end, you still saved us yet again. Ouyang Changheng looked in the direction Wang Chong had left and internally sighed. You all heard it, right? Everyone, get ready. In 10 seconds, we'll leave this place. Ouyang Changheng took in a deep breath and quickly began to issue orders. Although Wang Chong had seemed to save Ouyang Changheng and his group with just a few moves, it was not as it seemed. Every time Wang Chong used the great Yin-Yang heaven creation art, his body's condition would worsen, just as it had just now. If one could see through the heavenly mandate battle armor, they would realize that Wang Chong's face was pale white. Alarm gate, stop gate, view gate, open gate, another 2 layers and I will reach the core. Wang Chong remarked to himself. This time, Wang Chong encountered no more martial artists. No martial artist was capable of venturing so deep, as anyone who got this close to the core layers of the formation was essentially doomed. As Wang Chong relied on his prodigious calculation ability to go deeper and deeper, the attacks around him became stronger, but Wang Chong managed to avoid the vast majority of them. Boom! The world groaned while space shuddered. In the blink of an eye, Wang Chong had broken through the layer and finally arrived at the second layer of the origin immortal formation. Blood-red light filled his vision, giving the surrounding space the appearance of red glass. And at the edge of this area, Wang Chong saw enormous slabs of dark red stone. These slabs were more than 100 feet high, and special characters had been drawn on them. Moreover, all these stone slabs were moving, energy-absorbing stones. Wang Chong immediately recognized them. When he had been speaking with the formation elder, he had come to learn of these special inscribed stones used in formations. In ancient times, almost all powerful formations would use energy-absorbing stones for the parts near the core of their formations. In using these inscribed stones around the formation core, one could create a special region that would cause any martial artist who entered to rapidly lose stellar energy. This was a means of protecting the core. But Wang Chong had only ever heard about such things. This was his first time seeing them. In this era where the understanding of formations was on the decline, these things had essentially ceased to exist. It seems like I was right. Up ahead is the core region of the formation, leading straight to the heart. Wang Chong shot forward into the formation. More and more golden beetles appeared around him, clicking and chirping. At a glance, there were thousands upon thousands, simply too many to count. But unlike before, the golden beetles seemed to understand that Wang Chong's heavenly mandate battle armor would be difficult to breach, so they changed tactics and began to circle around him. Yet, even though they had given up on attacking, they only seemed more dangerous. These golden beetles were like lurking beasts, hungrily eyeing their prey. The moment they spotted a weakness, they would launch a fatal attack. In addition, these golden beetles were constantly circling around Wang Chong, completely obscuring his vision so that he only saw a thick mass of insects. At a time like this, Wang Chong could only use his psychic energy to replace his eyes, but what one saw with psychic energy would inevitably differ somewhat from what one saw with one's eyes. Whoosh! A moment later, a pure black flame imbued with destructive energy seethed out of Wang Chong's body. The previously fearless golden beetles, upon encountering the black fire of Mara, immediately hissed and popped and began to fall to the ground. Even their spotted wings of gold were scorched black. Wang Chong was greatly surprised by this sight. He had just wanted to scatter these insects with fire, but he had never expected the fire of Mara used by the mysterious men in black to be so effective against the golden beetles. The fire of Mara appearing on Wang Chong seemingly frightened all the beetles, and they began to scatter. Wang Chong used this rare chance to rush forward, heading toward the core of the formation through poison mist, arrows, stones, and pillars. Behind him, the golden beetles began to reconverge, once more pursuing Wang Chong as closely as maggots clung to a bone. Boom! The air shuddered as Wang Chong passed through another layer and reached the first layer of the formation. The pulses of worldly origin energy around him were intensifying, the sense of danger multiplying. Wang Chong continued to press toward the formation's heart. Buzz! As he was on the verge of reaching the core, all the golden beetles pursuing him suddenly shivered. As if they had encountered something extremely terrifying, they began to retreat, and in just a few seconds they were all gone. Wang Chong's brow creased in surprise. He had witnessed the savagery of these golden beetles, and not even the fire of Mara had been capable of completely driving them away. Their pressing and constant attacks were enough to make any martial artist shiver in fear. But now, these golden beetles had chosen to retreat. This was not their usual habit at all. But this is fine. At least I can save some of my stellar energy. With a thought, Wang Chong dispelled the heavenly mandate battle armor. This suit of armor possessed impressive defense, but it consumed an equally astonishing amount of stellar energy. Now that he wasn't threatened by the golden beetles, Wang Chong could endure in the formation for a little longer. Wang Chong suppressed the stray thoughts in his mind and continued toward the center. A few moments later, he passed through the final formation gate, and his surroundings suddenly fell silent. Wang Chong was finally at the center of the formation. At a glance, Wang Chong could see large stone pillars at the edge of the formation space, which soared to the sky like the ribs of some massive beast. These were crystalline and transparent, tapering to a point like daggerheads aimed at the sky. He could see that mysterious black characters had been drawn on these pillars. This should be the energy source for the formation. Through these pillars, the formation guides energy into its surroundings, causing all the formation gates to constantly shift and be fraught with danger. These pillars were extremely important to the formation, but reaching here was not easy. Purely the immense number of calculations required would keep out the vast majority of martial artists. Wang Chong charged forward without hesitation. The core of the formation is like the eye of the storm. Although there are fierce storms ravaging the outside, the danger here is much less, Wang Chong thought. The area around the stone pillars was calm and quiet, so Wang Chong quickly passed through and was soon surrounded by rows upon rows of stone pillars. As he passed his eyes over the characters on these pillars, he raised his eyebrows in recognition. Bird seal. Wang Chong looked in shock at the black characters on the pillars. Wang Chong had encountered these characters of the spring and autumn period when investigating the Confucian sect. However, these characters seemed both like and unlike the ones Wang Chong had seen in those books. They were like bird seal script, but they were even older. Wang Chong did not understand the meaning of these characters, but he could tell that vast power flowed through them. As he continued to look, he saw several other characters and symbols on these stone pillars. Suddenly, he spotted a special symbol at the base of a stone pillar, and his pupils constricted and his face paled. How could this be? Why is it that symbol? Wang Chong's body trembled in shock. This was the image of an ancient beast, though its head had long ago disappeared, leaving behind only two savagely curled fangs and a lower jaw. On the lower jaw were several tadpole-like characters. They seemed extremely old, and even more bizarre was that there were actually black wisps of smoke seeping out of the tops of those fangs, exuding an air of mystery. Why would the symbols from the Doomsday Altar appear here? Just what's going on here? What connection do the Origin Immortal Formation and Origin Immortal Lord have with all this? Thoughts surged through Wang Chong's mind, stirring up turbulent waves, and the way he looked at these stone pillars immediately changed. Wang Chong had come to the Northwest purely to find the world's #1 art, hoping to use the Origin Immortal art to pacify the stellar energies in his body and cure his cultivation defect. He had never imagined that he would find a symbol connected to the otherworldly invaders in this place. Wang Chong's eyes unfocused as his train of thought traveled backward in time, turning up memories that he had long ago forgotten. At that moment, Wang Chong recalled many things. Those otherworldly invaders did not come from a single direction, but the most famous of their entrances, the one that allowed the most of them entrance into this world, was a space-time fissure that Inauthentic had personally performed a sacrifice to open in the Northwest. This entrance was known as the Doomsday Altar. This was the first entrance the otherworldly invaders used to enter the continent. Afterward, the otherworldly invaders opened up several more entrances in space-time which they used to cross over. Before the final battle, Wang Chong had led some of his men to that place and had seen with his own eyes that Doomsday Altar that Inauthentic had constructed. That vast altar had been 60 to 70 meters tall, and at the center of the altar, several massive inscribed stones had been placed, bloody red in hue and transparent like colored glass. And on that most important stone, many summoning symbols of various styles had been carved. One of the 7 most important mysterious symbols was exactly identical to the one he saw now. No one had ever seen those 7 symbols before, and no one understood what sort of energy they contained. However, it was obvious that these 7 symbols were of paramount importance in summoning the otherworldly invaders. Just who was this Origin Immortal Lord? What was his relationship to those people? Why did he use the same symbol as Inauthentic when setting up this formation? Could it be? Wang Chong muttered to himself, many ideas and theories in his mind. The formation was still the formation, but it had taken on a completely new significance in Wang Chong's mind. Crack! Without any warning, Wang Chong suddenly lashed out with his palm, hacking down the stone pillar before him. Boom! The earth swayed as the stone pillar crashed down, and the entire origin immortal formation shuddered. What's going on? Outside the core of the formation, at around the 4th or 5th layer, the Righteous Alliance experts around Song Yuanyi raised their heads with fright and alarm in their eyes. They had heard rumbling from the formation several times. It had come from the core of the formation each time, and each time the formation grew stronger. But for some reason, the rumbling from the formation felt different. Alliance Lord, the formation's energy has weakened. It seems like someone has already reached the formation's core, a Righteous Alliance elder said. I wonder who it is? They must be incredibly formidable to so quickly reach the core of the formation. This sort of strength truly can't be underestimated. A different Righteous Alliance elder added. Song Yuanyi said nothing, only furrowed his brow, a pensive look in his eyes. Buzz. Meanwhile, on the outer ring of the formation, the ground was quaking. The demonic Emperor Old Man and the formation elder stood side by side inside a stone formation the formation elder had just set up, similarly looking toward the center of the formation. The formation's power has weakened. The kid has probably reached the core, the formation elder suddenly said. The demonic Emperor Old Man nodded, his face emotionless. You're not even a little bit worried? The formation elder asked. The origin immortal formation was fraught with danger, and Wang Chong was liable to trigger his cultivation defect at any time. The demonic Emperor Old Man was just a little bit too calm. Not worried, the demonic Emperor Old Man nonchalantly said, his face as placid as an ancient well. The formation elder was infuriated by this display. Zhang Wenfu, just what sort of master are you trying to be? Have you forgotten that the kid determined that there's probably some hidden faction at the center of the formation? Those people might show up at any time. I know. You know, but you're still so calm? The formation elder angrily said. For a master to be so unconcerned when their disciple was venturing into danger was to be no master at all in his view. If not for the fact that he was no match against Zhang Wenfu and rather feared him, he would have long ago seized Wang Chong to be his own disciple. I know what you're thinking. The demonic Emperor Old Man's eyes were fixed forward, his calm expression brimming with resolve. It's not that I don't care about him, but he is my disciple, so I believe in him. Buzz. The formation elder was startled by his words. Suddenly, he understood something and silently looked away. At that moment, the formation elder failed to notice a sudden ripple in the demonic Emperor Old Man's eyes, a bright flash of light. If Wang Chong had been an ordinary disciple, the demonic Emperor Old Man truly would have been worried. But in 2 short years, Wang Chong had climbed from the true martial realm all the way to peak great general, even nearing the subtle realm, rendering a series of wondrous achievements along the way. Wang Chong had done all this on his own. He had not done anything special to pave the way for him. Chong-er, no matter when, your master will always believe in you. You will undoubtedly surpass your master, and no one in this world will be capable of holding you down. Milord, it's bad. That kid has begun to destroy the formation. If this continues, he'll destroy all the stone pillars. Deep in the formation, up in the air, several figures were watching Wang Chong. At this moment, everyone else in the formation was struggling on death's doorstep. Song Yuanyi, the Blackine ancestor, and even the demonic emperor were trapped within. At this moment, the only person who had been able to reach the formation core and threaten them was Wang Chong. A youth who only seemed 17 or 18 actually seemed to have a chance of destroying the formation laid down by the origin immortal lord. Not in their wildest dreams had they ever imagined this possibility. That's right, my lord. We have to stop him. The other subordinate agreed. Without the stone pillars, our control over the formation will be greatly affected. The power of the formation will also suffer a large drop. Crack. The ground trembled once more as Wang Chong destroyed yet another pillar, sending it slamming into the earth. The 3 of them instantly grimaced. My lord, should we go out and stop him? a subordinate anxiously asked. Their leader's eyes were flickering in uncertainty, surging with killing intent as they looked at the youth constantly destroying the stone pillars. No! The leader firmly rejected the notion. Although we can control part of the formation's energy and even change its rules, the Immortal Lord long ago decreed as his final will that we are not allowed to touch anyone who manages to reach the core region of the formation. The leader slightly scowled as they spoke those final words, and the expressions of the two subordinates became extremely unnatural. Although they could use a portion of the formation's power, even they had rules that they did not dare disobey. One of the subordinates clenched their fists and unwillingly said, "But, my lord, are we going to just watch as he destroys the formation? Wouldn't that be an even greater betrayal of the Immortal Lord's will?" There was an indescribable stillness as the trio watched Wang Chong destroy the stone pillars on the core's periphery. It's not that easy. These stone pillars are only the outermost part of the core. Destroying them will only weaken the formation, but it won't have any substantive effect on the overall formation. After all, a formation left by the Immortal Lord can't possibly be that easy to break. Even he managed to get here, he is still incapable of reaching the actual core. The leader seemed to have a plan as they spoke, a profound look in their eyes. The two subordinates were startled at first, but as they came to understand something, they relaxed. Although destroying these stone pillars won't actually destroy the formation, it can at least improve the situation of Master and the other martial artists. Crack! At the edge of the core, Wang Chong finished destroying the last stone pillar. As he watched that Fong-like pillar topple down in an explosion of dust, he felt greatly relieved. Only the core of the formation is left. Wang Chong's body swayed as he shot off toward the core. A few moments later, Wang Chong reached the central part of the core region. This area was permeated by thick red smoke that stretched into the sky. Moreover, the pulses of origin energy were so intense here that even ordinary people could sense them. This destructive energy was enough to make any martial artist pale. Wang Chong looked ahead and said to himself, "Only one layer is left." He could see seething flames through the red smoke, and in the center of these flames was a massive golden sphere. This sphere was 70 to 80 meters tall and exuded divine majesty, completely unlike any other part of the formation. Wang Chong could also make out several dark tunnels under the sphere, sinister and unfathomable. It was obvious that one could use these tunnels to venture into the sphere. Wang Chong became even more cautious at this sight. The Origin Immortal Formation was the #1 formation in the world and fraught with danger. In this sort of place, the safer it seemed, the more dangerous it was. Clap! With a flick of his finger, Wang Chong shot several stone shards that he had picked up from one of the previous formation gates into the red smoke. Hiss! The moment the stone shards flew into the smoke, they began to dissolve. As if they had been dunked in acid, the 3 stone shards blackened and began to shrink. As these stone shards flew past the smoke and into the flames, they turned into black ash that was completely burned away until nothing was left. Wang Chong immediately grimaced. Swish! Wang Chong took out a broken sword he had taken from the Righteous Alliance group and cast it forward. The sword moved much faster than the stone shards, but the steel it was forged from corroded faster than the rocks. As soon as the sword entered the red smoke, it rapidly began to corrode and blacken. The rest of the sword was melted down the moment it entered the flames. Despite Wang Chong already having prepared himself, he couldn't help but stare. The swords of the Righteous Alliance were not made from ordinary steel. Since this red miasma could so quickly corrode it, it had to be exceptionally formidable. As for those fierce flames in the back, ordinary armor would probably instantly be melted down. The Immortal Lord left behind both this poisonous smoke and the flames. Both of them are extremely fierce, able to turn into slurry the most precious of weapons and the finest suits of armor. Since ancient times, no one has ever been able to get past these traps. If not for the seal left behind by the Immortal Lord, even we would be doomed if we ventured within, let alone outsiders. He can't possibly force his way past those traps. The leader looked down on Wang Chong, waiting for his final choice. Forward was death and retreat was also death. No matter what, those martial artists who ventured deep into the formation were doomed. The two subordinates remained silent, and all three of them watched Wang Chong and waited for him to make his move. Everything can finally come to an end, the two said to themselves. A split second later, clang. After some thought, Wang Chong decided to press forward. Before he entered the red smoke, Wang Chong equipped the heavenly mandate battle armor. Buzz. The three watched this transpire in shock. Humph. I overestimated him. Even the best armor has a chink that will allow the smoke and fire to get in. This kid is finished. The two subordinates shook their heads. They thought that Wang Chong might test the waters a few more times or that he would retreat in the face of difficulty. But this result was not at all what they had expected. Within this region, Wang Chong's chances of survival were nil. As they watched him take his first few steps into the smoke, they patiently waited for him to fall over. Stone of Destiny. Seal the armor. Wang Chong was focused and cared little about what might be happening outside. As he stepped into the core region, he had all the chinks of his armor sealed, turning the heavenly mandate battle armor into an isolated space that kept everything out. The miasma hissed as it assailed the heavenly mandate battle armor, but all its corrosive power was kept on the outside. The smoke was so thick that he could see nothing. Wang Chong spread out his psychic energy and advanced. I only have 5 minutes left. I have to hurry, Wang Chong quietly said to himself. Although he seemed to have easily kept out the corrosive poison, Wang Chong was extremely grave at this time. The heavenly mandate battle armor was powerful, but it consumed massive amounts of stellar energy. Wang Chong was incapable of maintaining this state for very long. Swoosh! Wang Chong picked up the pace, and he soon passed through the poisonous smoke and entered the seething flames. Just before entering, Wang Chong noticed several large crystal pillars arranged in an orderly fashion at the intersection of these two zones. Wang Chong once more saw the same black fang symbols that had been carved on the doomsday altar on these crystal pillars. There are more and more of these symbols, Wang Chong said to himself. Everything gave him an indescribably bizarre feeling. The origin immortal formation was still the origin immortal formation, but it was now bursting with mystery and secrets. Clap! An armor-covered soul stepped into the flames, and Wang Chong was soon deep into the sea of fire. An indescribable heat traveled up his foot, and every part of his body soon felt scalding hot. Not even the heavenly mandate battle armor could completely keep out the heat. Wang Chong felt like his entire body was on fire, and even his breath scorched him. With advantages come disadvantages. The heavenly mandate battle armor is sealed, but this means I can only breathe the air inside the armor. This air won't last for very long. I have to get through here quickly. Rumble. Wang Chong immediately rushed toward that giant golden sphere, each of his steps causing the earth to quake. Impossible! The three figures hidden in the core trembled all over as they watched Wang Chong ceaselessly proceed toward the sphere, their eyes almost bulging out. How could this be? Impossible! Impossible! Whether in the central plains or the western regions, no armor can block the smoke and fire of the immortal Lord. Impossible! The three didn't dare to believe their eyes, and their minds were rocked by unprecedented shock. The Origin Immortal Lord was one of their mythical figures, and they regarded the defensive methods the Origin Immortal Lord had left to protect the formation as an impregnable fortress. But now, all their deep convictions were shattered by a youth of 18 or 19. Boom boom boom. Amidst the seething red fire, that figure continued to rapidly advance. In just a few moments, Wang Chong had passed through the sea of fire and reached the golden sphere. The three felt their hearts turn into blocks of ice. It's too late. He's about to destroy the formation. We have no way of stopping him. The three had dead eyes as they stared at Wang Chong's erect figure. The invincible legend of the formation that had persisted for several hundred years was about to end at the hands of Wang Chong. Go in. Wang Chong had little time to worry about what might be going on elsewhere. He gazed at the dark tunnel that was the height of several adult men and rushed inside. The tunnel was quiet, bereft of any traps or mechanisms. Wang Chong was extremely cautious at the start, but he was soon flying through the tunnel. Boom! Just as Wang Chong had proceeded 70 or 80 feet into the tunnel, there was a metal clattering. Countless sharp metal teeth suddenly protruded from the walls of the tunnel and began to close around Wang Chong. There was a deafening shriek as the metal spikes scraped against the heavenly mandate battle armor. Not good. Wang Chong hastened his pace while stellar energy exploded from his body. He hoped to jolt back the spikes long enough for him to get into the core before they completely closed around him. But a moment later, the heavens and earth seemed to turn, the entire world going upside down. Not only that, the tunnel became a long arc while an enormous energy wrapped around him and threw him to the end of the tunnel. Boom! Wang Chong exploded out from between the metal teeth. The immense power slammed him into the ground in a cloud of dust. Before Wang Chong could get back to his senses, the air howled as a vast energy began to hurtle toward his head from above. Wang Chong dodged backward, barely avoiding a massive stone pillar that pounded into the ground. Alarm gate! Wang Chong's eyes widened as he stared at the stone pillar. There were no such formation attacks in the core. These stone pillar attacks would only appear in the 8 gates around the core. He knew that he had been thrown out of the formation's core, but how had he appeared here? But there was little time for Wang Chong to think, as more and more stone pillars were hurtling toward him, all of them pulsing with energy. As they struck the ground, they left massive pits and stirred up great clouds of dust. Wang Chong's mind rapidly spun in calculation, and he soon realized where he was. The 3rd layer. It's actually the alarm gate in the Qian Palace of the formation's 3rd layer. How could this be? He had clearly already entered the core of the formation, so how had he come out in the 3rd layer? The origin immortal formation had somehow skipped the 1st and 2nd layer and used some unknown method to throw him into the 3rd. Kiki. Metallic chirps quickly shook Wang Chong from his stupor. A pack of golden beetles spotted Wang Chong and quickly rushed over. Clings and clangs rang out as they rammed themselves against the heavenly mandate battle armor. There's not much time left. Wang Chong's heart chilled as he rushed back into the formation and back toward the core. Boom! A few moments later, with another boom, Wang Chong was thrown out again. This time he was in the 4th layer, and when he charged in a 3rd time he was tossed into the 2nd layer. It was like there was an invisible barrier that prevented Wang Chong from getting any farther. "Milord, what's going on?" The 2 subordinates looked at each other in confusion. No one had ever gotten as deep as Wang Chong, so for a moment, not even they understood why Wang Chong was being constantly thrown out. The leader thought for a few moments and then chuckled. Heh! If my guess is correct, this is the universe puzzle. The last checkpoint left by the origin immortal lord. These people thought of things too simply. The things left behind by the immortal lord are not so easy to disarm. If one wants to get into the formation's core, they must solve the universe puzzle. But I only have a theoretical understanding of it, as no one has ever triggered it before. For this successor of the demonic emperor to reach this place is something he should be proud of, but that's as far as he can go.